And we're delighted to have with us in the studio none other than Jessica Lyn. Jessica, welcome to the
Hi.
program.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. Now, you performed at Carnegie. We'll get to that toward the end of our brief time here. You performed your own composition called "Listen" at Carnegie, and you're a pianist. And you were born in you grew up in Long Island, but when did you first start playing the piano?
Oh, I was about 3 years old. I'm told that with the little keyboard that I have, which was only one octave wide, I would pick out some tunes that I knew at that age on that piano. And when I needed more keys that went beyond the eight keys, I would play the air and look at my dad and shake my head and then continue on. And they knew I needed to get more than an octave under my fingertips right quick.
Right, and you finally got a few more octaves to play with.
I did. I started lessons officially at 5 and continued weekly lessons with various teachers through my first year out of high school.
One teacher in particular is mentioned in your bio, Beverly Grace Joy. Was she
Yes.
your first teacher?
She was not. She was actually my last teacher.
Uh-huh.
I quickly, I guess you could say, outgrew many teachers in the area over the course of a few years. They're like, well, we can't really contribute anymore. My knowledge goes to this level, and she's beyond that. When we moved my family to Virginia, and I was looking for another teacher because I was, again, in the same boat, and my teacher's teacher at the time had an opening, and my teacher at the time was like, you should go to my teacher, who was Beverly Grace Joy. She's the only one I think that could handle it. And as it turns out, she was taking lessons from Dr. Barbara Lister Sink herself. You know, education continues, never stops. You always take lessons.
Right.
And she's the one that really launched me into better technique for myself as opposed to just making sure I hit the correct notes, come what cramps may.
Right. And you studied a range of music, not just classical, but you're also proficient in jazz, right? And I understand also some new age music. So you're very varied in your techniques of playing.
Well, I would say that I'm very proficient in jazz theory. And so I can teach people how to pursue it if I'm their teacher. I've kind of more or less stolen aspects of jazz that I know and incorporated into my classical technique. I'm not very proficient in jazz. Classical is definitely my forte, but I'm also very good at Baroque. And I've I'm a good arranger, so I take some new age sound influence and kind of mix it into my own style.
Hmm. And do you perform most of your own music, or are you can you sit down and play a Beethoven sonata or any of the classical music in the repertoire as well?
So my classical repertoire is old. I don't usually play that. It's not what people have asked me to. Without going too much into it, I have had a very interesting upbringing that did not really allow me to pursue a lot of what I had wished to pursue for various reasons. And so I've more or less played a lot of catch up once I was on my own in my 20s, and actually, especially in my 30s. I'm only now pursuing my master's in music, particularly in the Barbara Lister Singh technique. But up through all of that, there was a lot of cloistering, and I was not able to pursue a lot, which kind of meant that my abilities for sight reading and anything that an orchestra would look for, they wouldn't really go after me. I played by ear. I really honed in my playing by ear skills more than the other. So, yes, I can play it technically, but give me about 4 weeks and I'll come back and then I'll have it perfectly.
I
Once
see.
I tried to be in a jazz band for a hot minute and I couldn't keep up because of the sight reading barrier. Once I got it, they were like, oh my goodness, that's fantastic. But you needed to be there about 3 weeks ago. So
Right.
my
I see.
forte is listen to the YouTube song, tell me if you want to mash it with something else, if you want it to sound kind of like this classical or jazz composer or that classical or jazz composer, and
I
I
see.
will return to you with the product.
I see. So this comes in handy when people ask you to do all kinds of different things at various ceremonies where you're hired to be a pianist. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I can tell you some of the craziest requests I've received. One wedding, one of my first weddings when I was advertising for myself, she wanted me to create a Taylor Swift mashup with Viva La Vida from like Coldplay and deliver something that was sounded like that. And they said, you do whatever you do and come back with something. So there's my artistic canvas, if you will. And I came up with that. There was another wedding that they wanted me to play. I think it was Adele with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's what's in, but they want me to sound like Beethoven was playing it, you know.
I see.
So they have some of that. Then there's, various pop. Somebody wanted me to sound like if it was Adele playing the piano, but it was from the Beatles. And they wanted me to play a Beatles song. And so, I have the canvas, I put everything together. I say canvas, musical canvas, and I give them a recording. Is this what you're looking for? And they say yes or no, tweak this, tweak that. Usually they don't tweak it. It's a
Very
lot of
good.
fun.
Now let's talk a bit about the composition that you played at Carnegie. It's called Listen, and that's for solo piano.
Yes, it's for solo piano. I wrote that, I want to say it was a few years ago. I thought it kind of captured the idea of, well, listening starts out very pleasant, very simplistic of an idea when you're
Hmm.
communicating with people. And that kind of is reflected in the soft kind of, okay, where is this going aspect of the beginning? Very lacking of meat, if you will. And then later on, comes dissonance, there comes a rockiness, because sometimes listening doesn't always work out the way you want it with people until the finale, which, of course, if you are able to overcome the rockiness of having to communicate, it's all the more enjoyable and all the more fulfilling at the end of things.
Wonderful. It must have been exciting to come out onto the stage at the Weill Recital Hall at Carnegie. Was that your first performance at Carnegie?
It was my first solo performance at Carnegie. I have performed in Carnegie Hall before in, I believe it would be the larger main hall with a choir before.
Right.
For the annually they have a Handel's Messiah choir perform there. So I was familiar with Carnegie Hall, and I think we were close to being in the same area backstage, but it was definitely my first time solo, and it was a whole new experience.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. I'm looking forward to hearing the piece. Just very briefly, what's coming up on your calendar and up ahead? What sort of any exciting performances?
Well, not quite yet, as at least as big as Carnegie Hall. I have a few weddings coming up of the same caliber. I am in school full time, and that's kind of cramping me a little bit
All
with what
right.
I'm able to do. But after that, I definitely hope to break into some festivals and other similar caliber performances.
Well, Jessica Lyn, thank you very much for your time and good luck. I'm looking forward to hearing the piece and good luck with your college work and everything that comes after. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.